When the news of the defeat at Varna and the death of King Vladislav reached the realm of St. Stephen, chaos and panic erupted anew. It was assumed that the Sultan will be charging north with a vengeance, a threat which failed to materialize. But simultaneously Friedrich III of Austria was slowly encroaching on the realm's lands in the name of his protege, King Ladislav V. Then the estates of the realm seemed to have suddenly realized what the results were of 5 years of civil war and bloody stalemate. The undecided civil war left the legal framework of the realm in tatters and the administration and judiciary at a standstill. Countless administrative offices, legal and judicial posts were empty, no new legitimate appointments made since the days of the late King Albert, and the kingdom's treasury was almost empty. With no legitimate king, judge, or court to turn to, the only way people defended their rights and enforced their claims was through force of arms and building of unauthorized fortifications. The 5 years of chaos saw countless invasions and devastations, continual plundering in every possible way, arson, and many other kinds of evils against the churches, barons, nobles of either sex, and inhabitants of the kingdom, perpetrated not only from pagans and other nations, but also from lawless, native evildoers. Faced with complete internal disintegration of the realm and external pressures, all the prelates, barons, knights, nobles, townsmen, and gentlemen of the realm gathered for a diet in the spring of 1445, for the restoration of peace, that unless swift remedy is provided by the grace of God Most High, and by concurrent human effort, this kingdom may very well fall into final decline. It was the first diet attended by the representatives of the royal cities. The diet declared that if King Vladislav I does not return within a few weeks, which he didn't, then Ladislav V von Habsburg is elected as king and will become king in full right as soon as Frederick III returns him and the Holy Crown back to the realm, which he didn't. Around the same time, the Diet of Bohemia made an equivalent demand. The response from Frederick III was the same. The Diet of the Realm of St. Stephen approved a regency council in the name of the 5-year-old king-elect, the council being made up from leading figures from both parties in the Civil War. The Diet also declared that all of the royal land grants made after the death of King Albert were annulled, meaning all land under dispute legally belonged to the owners from 1439, and had to be returned, and all unauthorized castles and fortifications had to be torn down. To enforce these decisions and restore order to the realm, the Diet named 7 captains of the realm, also members from both factions, most prominently Nicholas Ovilok and János Hunyadi, and Jan Jiskra, who was named to the captaincy in the hopes he'll stop seizing revenues, minting his own money, and stop his own mercenary bands from marauding in the north of the realm. It didn't work. After a year passed and the elected King Ladislav V was still not in the realm, another diet was called in June of 1446, which elected János Hunyadi, Regent General of the Kingdom of Hungary, on behalf of the most illustrious heir-elect, Ladislav, born of the late King Albert. Hunyadi was elected as regent thanks to his fame, reputation, and newfound wealth. Over the last 2 years, his supporters successfully cleared him of any blame for the failure at Varna, covering up the Faustian bargain which cost the crusade valuable time. Rather pinning the failure on the rashness of the deceased King Vladislav and Cardinal Cesarini and the Serbs and Vlachians withdrawing. Though Hunyadi's influence was great, his actual authority and power as regent was limited, and checked by the council and the diet, the two issuing laws and decisions not in the name of the king or regent, but the prelates, barons, nobles, lords, and notables of the realm. The Diet of 1446 agreed to continue meeting on a yearly basis or on emergency occasions. And after years of crisis, the situation began to stabilize. The regent and 6 out of the 7 captains of the realm quashed rebellion and restored order, mostly. Taxes were being collected again, disputes were going through the courts again, and unauthorized fortifications were being taken down. Of course, all this took a few years, especially the disputes over royal land, which required a king. Order having been restored to the realm, the Diet of 1447 revoked the offices of the 7 captains as they were seen to be no longer necessary. And upon the death of the previous Palatine, the Diet elected a new one, Ladislav Garai, a supporter of King Ladislav V during the Civil War. At the Diet, some dynamics were coming into focus. A lot of the minor nobility couldn't stay for long sessions of the Diet, as they were running out of money and had to leave early to manage their estates, which also kept them more connected with local matters, while they sided with factions at the Diet. The forming factions could retroactively be called the King's Party and the Hunyadi Party, one wanting to preserve the status quo, the other wanting to give more power to János Hunyadi. Most of the actual policy was formed by factional leaders in the Royal Council, which was made up of the great prelates and magnate office holders of the realm. All of them and the magnates' families also attended the Diet as they were large landholders. Unlike the minor nobility, they had money, time, and far more opportunities to discuss and direct the affairs of the realm. They were also usually personally invited by the crown to the royal palace during the Diet. Unlike the masses of self-represented minor nobility and representatives of the church, noble municipalities, royal cities, and other diets and assemblies, who only met at the Diet. At this point the Diet was held outdoors, usually on Rakosh Field near Buda and Pest. These are the signs of the early informal bicameral separation of the Diet of the realm, which would only be formalized by an act of the Diet of 1608. But a lot of changes to the political structure happened between this and that point. The other diets and assemblies within the realm would remain unicameral, but I digress. At the Diet, magnate factions lobbied for support for their positions. They mostly tried to get the support from the minor nobility, who made up the vast majority of the Diet at this time. This whole dynamic was not beneficial for the royal cities, who had completely different interests and little influence. The cities attended the Diet very infrequently for the time being. But while all those things were developing, Regent Hunyadi was charged with solving 3 pressing problems, called Friedrich III, Ulrich of Celje, and Jan Jiškra. Hunyadi attempted to solve each one of these problems while also making another detour into Vlachia to put another son of Vlachian Prince Don II, and at that another Vladislav, on the throne there. However, Hunyadi failed in his attempt to take possession of the king and crown from Friedrich III, only getting back a few border castles. If one were being cynical, one could suppose Regent Hunyadi deliberately failed to complete that mission, not wanting his regency to be cut short. Then Hunyadi turned to deal with Ulrich of Celje, who had illegally taken the office of Ban of Slavonia after the death of Matko of Talovac in 1445, and violated the rights of the nobility, the royal cities, and the church in the area. Ulrich proved hard to deal with, so Hunyadi and Ulrich entered negotiations in 1448. Ulrich agreed to return most of the illegally seized land, in return for being officially appointed to the Banate of Slavonia, having the remaining land grabs legalized, and Hunyadi's eldest son Ladislav getting betrothed to Ulrich's daughter Elizabeth. As for Jiškra, there were repeated campaigns against him and repeated negotiations with him. At points, Jiškra was given all of the revenues and lands he claimed if he just stopped his mercenaries from marauding. Jiškra either couldn't control his men or pretended that he couldn't. Cutting their pay just made the raids worse and Jiškra richer, and when the regent's army would go north to pacify them, Jiškra and the mercenary bands fought together. It would take a while to deal with Iskra. Despite the not-so-stellar performance on the three problems, order was largely restored to the realm, and Hunyadi had the support of the Diet. For another crusade against the Ottomans.